What is going on, guys? The Difference is All Gaming with my review of Seraph of the End episode 9 review, and holy crap, was this episode so freaking intense. Now, the beginning, we see now that all these helicopters or choppers, they were all heading, to this wall that the army against vampires, were defending. And we see now that they had all these archers, and it was definitely impressive to see, all these fodder characters shooting down, these choppers, because we all know vampires were definitely on board of them. And the fact that they, shot so many down, to protect this wall, but mainly to protect this city, that right there was definitely impressive, and I will give them props for that. But we see two vampires. I definitely think that they're well known in the series by this point. But we see these two, riding in an airplane, and we see now that the airplane was packed with explosive, and so we see now that when they had collided with the wall and and made it explode, I'm not gonna lie, to me it reminded me of an Attack on Titan. But we see now that even though those two were in the airplane, because not at one point did we see them jump out, they were somehow able to survive the explosion. And I'm sitting here wondering, how was it possible for those to survive? But when we saw those other, with all those other helicopters explode, it seems like those vampires inside, they were all killed. So I do wonder how in the world how in the world did those two, survive that? Or maybe all the vampire did. And we just saw, the helicopter explode, because obviously, there was no way it could fly with all the holes in it. But now we see now that with that wall broken down and the vampires, could get inside, we saw them now charge in, and of course now, we get, now we have an all-out war, because these vampires, have a guaranteed, way in, because there's no way in the world that these humans, can cover this hole up while fighting against, these immortal beings. But now we see you and his group, they now had arrived as well, and we see right away they were put to work as they had at the fight, because we see now that once the vampires have broke in there, these helicopters they kept coming and coming, and we even see now one of them shot a rocket at where you and his friends were, and then they were almost overwhelmed by all these vampires, but they definitely held their own, and it was rather impressive, to be honest with you, because once again, now we see why teamwork is so important, because they work so well together. Because we saw at one point when Mika was getting shot at by the helicopter, she had told Yoshi, to shoot it down. And we see now that when he was going to, he was attacked by, two vampires, but Shinamo had came in there, and, she had saved him, and that right there allowed him to get a good shot off, to shoot down the helicopter. And not only that, we saw, you and Kimi, even though these two, butt heads so much, that they will work well together, and they both have, each other back. But now we see now, after they take out those vampires, of course they will give her another task. But then we go to my boy Guren, who was watching the vampires from afar. But then we see, that one noble who had killed Yu's family, and always with Mika. And when Guren was looking at him, that vampire actually noticed that and looked right back at Guren. And even Guren was shocked to see that the vampire, eyesight was this good. But now we see now that I believe this girl was the was the sub teacher for Guren whenever he didn't show up. I did believe that girl was her, and we see her again. But we see now that a vampire did try to attack her, but she was saved by this redheaded female, and it seems her curse gear is the gauntlets that can actually use lightning. And to me, that right there already makes her, a grade A in my book, because I love lightning that much. So for her, I definitely want to see more, and I would love to see more of her fighting style, because right now, I am definitely interested. But now we see that, all the other members, of Guren's group, they now assemble. and it seems most of them, are pretty young, except for this one guy who had like a goatee. Like he like one of the older folks. He might be older than like Guren, so I would believe that he does have more experience. So I would love to see them, all fighting into one and go all out. But obviously, Guren, wants to update, Shinonwa and her group because Shinonwa is the leader, and so we see now, when we learns, how well they done. He feels like they are ready to actually go to the front lines, and that right there, is a very huge step, of improvement. Because right now, being on this battlefield and fighting against these vampires, that right there is the best way for them to get stronger. Because after they lost, to that noble, while even fighting him, our characters still have a long way to go. So Guren was like, definitely right. Right now, they need training, and hopefully, like they don't come across any more members for like with I would call it a grade A weapon or a level 1 weapon. Hopefully, they don't come across any number like that anytime soon, because there's just no way they can win. But after Guren, is done talking with the unit, and they all leave, we see now that the noble vampire, I believe his name was like Farid. Hopefully I'm saying that right, but I believe that right there is what Mika called him. We see now, he like definitely noticed, somebody was watching him, but he cannot tell who it was. And we see now Mika is still as cold as always to that guy. And I really don't blame him, because obviously, Mika, should have some grudge against him. But we see now, that the reason why he feels like that is because he feels, like Mika is still punishing himself because he was not strong enough to protect his family. But we see now that like Farid or Farid, something like that, the noble vampire, what I'll stick with for now. We see now that he watched how to get Mika, to like drink, human blood, because we saw all these dead soldiers and we saw a vampire, drinking off them, but Mika refused to do so, and we see, why that is in a flashback, and we go back to where, the third progenitor, Coral, something like that. We see now that when she had first turned Mika into one, his transformation, it was not complete. And so we see now that, one of these, like much lower class vampires, they have bought Mika a kid, to drink off of, but he would not do that. And, the vampire, she was like trying so hard, to get him to do it, but he just wouldn't. And so we see now that, even when he would not do that, and he would probably die, without doing so, because we learn now that if you don't, get enough blood in your system as a vampire, you will become, pretty much one of those four horsemen of John. So I do wonder, maybe all those vampires that we saw so far, like that, those monsters, I do wonder how in the world did they not get enough blood, or maybe they were like Mika and possibly humans that were like forced to become, vampires, and maybe, they didn't want to drink human blood. So that right there is why, they became like that. We have no idea why. We just know that vampires did not get enough blood, then they would definitely become, like monsters. So that right there was like definitely interesting, and I'm so glad that we probably learned that, because I always wondered where in the world did like these monsters come from, or how would they form, because it just seems, like so weird, and especially, with them being so wild, it definitely makes, that they're very, beast-like. But now we see that, the third progenitor, she gave Mika another choice where he can actually, drink her own blood, and that way he can live without ever, harming humans. And at first he had refused, and we see now that when she wasn't going to give up on him, we see now that like Mika finally cave in, and we see him now drinking her blood, and that right there is where he fully became a vampire. And so now we see now, even the third progenitor now saw Mika, as her dog that could like never, leave her side. But that also means, with like Mika being so close to her, he's definitely, above, a lot of other vampires as well. And so now we see now, like back in the present, obviously, he now has he now had the vials of her blood that will sustain him, for like 10 days. So in those 10 days, he must find you, because that right there is like real objective. But I do wonder if he has to find you before his blood runs out. I do wonder, like, what would it mean if he did not drink her blood for a day? Because from that, for like learning that, it seems like if he did not drink her blood for like one day, he would become a monster, and that right there seems way too severe, especially for like missing a day. So I do wonder just how serious it would be, or what would happen if somebody broke all those broke all the vials of his, or maybe he would have no choice but to like drink off some human. It is possible that when he does find you, he might not have like all that blood by then, and it's possible that you might let Mika drink off him, but it also could bring up that like 10% inside you that like makes him different for like other people. But now we see like after Mika was like thinking to herself, we now go to our characters that like in some van heading somewhere. And so we see now pretty much our characters right now, they're like no choice, like there are no real threat against these vampires. And we even see now, Shinwa being so freaking cold. She had told them that they were like worth less than a shit out on the street, and that right there was like straight savage, yo. You have no idea how messed up that was. I was like dying, laughing my ass off. But to me, that was just so freaking savage. Like, you have no idea. But we see now that there is a way for them to, to become stronger. Even if it is, temporarily, and that right there is by, taking these pills. Because if they take one, I believe you said it's like times, 1/10 of their strength. And if they take two, it's like 1.18. I'm not really sure. I forgot the exact numbers. But pretty much these pills, it will like make them stronger, and they will be, a better matchup against, like a real vampire noble. But it doesn't mean, they'll win. But the thing is, though, like these pills, they have a pretty big drawback. Like, it takes, I believe it takes like 10 seconds, for it to kick in. And then, when it does, you will feel, severe pain, and you can die, from the shock of it. But at least, you'll be stronger though. And if you take more than two, like if you take three, then your organs will burst. And that right there, it's just so freaking crazy. But now we see now, they were all handed, their own cases of pills that they can use, when they want to. So I do wonder who will be the first one, to take it. And I have a gut feeling that it will be you, because obviously, he's our main character, and the story does focus, around him. But now we see that while they were heading to their destination, they were like actually attacked, by another chopper, and that right there, had caused, had caused their van, to turn over. And so obviously now, like they were definitely, in trouble, because, they were like all alone, and the thing like armor with bullets, with missiles. So definitely, it was quite a struggle for them. But luckily, with their teamwork, they did take it down, but not before, it had shot 3 missiles. And we see now that when one of them hit that truck that they were riding in, it caused this as an explosion, and it caused all of them, to fall underground. And so now we have you, Shinowa, as some unknown corporal, who's injured. Like they're on one side, and then we have Kimi, Mitsuba, and Yoshi. They're on the other side. And so those three, Kimi, Mitsuba, and Yoshi, they will now head to the front lines, while, Shinowa and you, they will take, this corporal to safety. But for some reason, I have a very strong feeling, this guy will not make it. Like, for one, he is fodder. Like, we don't even know his name. And so he, like, definitely not important. So he probably, will be killed off, like, pretty soon. Cause I'm pretty sure right now, he's like halfway dead. But now we see now, where like Mika is, when we first saw his arm, I thought for sure that it was from the vampire that we saw, Yoshi shoot down. I was so sure, from him because it seemed like some explosion happened there. But to my surprise, we have, Guren, was the one to like kill that vampire. And when we see now Mika and Guren about to fight, I was like, bruh, no freaking way. Like, there is no way these two can fight. I hate to say it, but like, Guren would slaughter Mika. I'm sorry. So hopefully, something will happen, to stop this fight, because there is no way it can go down. I'm sorry, Mika, you cannot beat Guren. You cannot beat my boy. But holy crap, I cannot wait till next week, because right now I am literally on the edge of my seat, with excitement, because the fact that these two might fight, and we might see, Mika's weapon, because obviously he looks like definitely, a grade 1. That right there should be one hell of a fight. So I'm definitely hyped for that. And the episode itself was definitely pretty good, because once again we had action, we had some pretty good story progression, and once again, we learned more about Mika. And so for that, I'll probably get maybe an 8.5 or a 9 out of 10. But of course, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. And as always, don't forget to like and subscribe. Clearly helps me out. And you guys take it easy. I will see you all next time.